Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today for our masterclass in prompt engineering. Today, we are going to go through some really practical lessons that will show you basically what prompt engineering is and how you can do it. Before we begin, just the standard webinar stuff. If you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the chat or the Q&A, which is at the bottom of your screen. Dory from our team is in the background, and she's going to try and answer any questions that you might have as we go along. It's interactive, so jump in. You don't need to wait until the end of the session. Having said that, I'll be pausing as I go through the webinar to answer any questions that you might have. Where we feel that it might be better to answer questions in real time, I'll do that. Otherwise, Dory might answer you directly in the chat. This session is recorded. So at the end of the session, we are going to send everyone a follow-up email, and the replay will be linked in that email as well. So if some of your colleagues aren't here and you wish they'd heard what was in this webinar, then you can share it with them. And just on the questions bit, there are no silly questions. This is a super new field. No one really knows exactly how to do this stuff. Lots of people are very new to this whole field. So any questions you might ask are not silly, and also will probably benefit other people that are on this webinar today. So please don't be shy about your questions. Just go ahead and ask them. Okay, so the quality of your prompts determines the power of your outcomes. This is very similar to a saying from Socrates, which is why we have said that it's Socrates AI. Basically, there's just a lot of talk about prompts, and I wrote a piece about this recently that you're welcome to go and find on our site, where I was talking about how I'd attended a couple of conferences, one in New York and one in London. And there's all these tools there, and all the talk is about AI and how it's transforming the profession, the capabilities of the tool, you know, how advanced this is, and how these other tools that were doing other stuff are now able to kind of deliver new capabilities to their customers. But no one's talking about how this is going to impact the legal and contracts profession. And I think this is a really profound transformation that we're about to witness in our roles. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Electra. I'm the Chief Legal Officer here at Law Insider, and I'm a lawyer by trade. I was a practicing lawyer for about 15 years before I turned to legal tech, and I can totally see how our skill sets as lawyers is going to have to not only transform, but evolve. This AI movement is going to force us to become better lawyers. Because up until now, we have been working on instinct, right? Whether we say that we don't do or we don't say that, that's the reality. So when someone, especially more senior lawyers, is reviewing a contract, sometimes you go by your gut. So you look at something and you think, that feels wrong to me. I don't like that wording. I'm going to change it to this wording that I like. A lot of this is kind of systematic knowledge, institutional knowledge that you hold, that you've never been forced to codify. So what AI is going to do is it's going to force you to get what you've got in your head and codify it into an instruction that will allow the AI to repeat the things that you have been doing on gut instinct. So prompt engineering for lawyers is exactly that. And prompt engineering is an alienating term that I don't love, because what does it even mean? But basically, it's the structuring of an instruction that you will put into an AI tool to enable you to scale the thing that you've been doing instinctively. And as I said earlier, what you're going to walk away with today from this session that I want to be really practical on, and that's why I'm encouraging you to ask questions, because if I miss stuff, I want you to pinpoint that for me, is a practical understanding of prompt engineering for legal use cases. Because a lot of the literature out there today, if you did kind of Google or even ask ChatGPT about what prompt engineering is, it might kind of lean on more of the technical side of things. There's a niche area on what prompt engineering means for legal use cases, and there isn't loads of literature out there. So I kind of want to surface that today. I want to provide you with a framework for building AI contract playbooks from scratch, because I know that that might sound daunting, but actually it's a very straightforward process that lawyers are actually already equipped with the skill set for. And finally, we're going to share some resources with you so that you can continue to learn and build on what you take from today's session. What I'm going to be using for this today is Law Insider's AI contract review tool. And that's just so that I can illustrate how you can use this knowledge in practice. But whatever I show you today is tool agnostic. So whether you use the Law Insider contract review tool or not, whatever I show you today is something that you can transfer into any other tool that you're using. So you'll forgive me if I use the Law Insider tool. This is an agnostic session. Okay, so what's prompt engineering? So prompt engineering is the design of inputs to control AI outputs. Okay, so what does that mean? You are designing an instruction, a set of words that tell the AI what to do. And if you get that bit right, the AI will do the thing that you want it to do. There's lots of criticism about certain tools that will say that, oh, but it didn't pick this up, it didn't pick the other thing up. Cool, but that's not always to do with the tool. That's a lot to do with how you've instructed the tool or how the vendor may have instructed the tool. So vendors like us will create playbooks within their review tools. And those playbooks, which I'll talk to you about in a minute, will have a set of rules in them, such as, for example, if the term of the agreement is more than 2 years, change it so that it's only 2 years. That's the gist of the instruction. But if you write that in a way that's unclear, or if you write that in a way that's too complicated, the AI will not give you the output that you need. It will become unreliable, or it will pinpoint the wrong thing. So the capability of designing your inputs to control AI outputs is something that's on you, right? It's not on the tool. The tool will probably have incredible capabilities, but there is an onus on the user to learn how to use it properly. So just as when, the internet came about and we all started to learn how to Google stuff in the right way, sometimes you meet people that are in a slightly different generation and you think, oh God, do you not know how to Google? It's something that's going to become natural to us. And also the tools will probably get more intuitive. But for now, we have to learn how to design our inputs to control those AI outputs. And so in legal work, it's how you turn your know-how into repeatable instructions. So how you would normally review a contract, you just need to get that out of your head and turn that into a prompt. And I know that already sounds complicated, but I'm going to walk you through it. Before I walk you through it, I just want to talk to you about playbooks for a second, because prior to this, I used to run a legal operations consultancy, and I used to help people create playbooks. And I used to have webinars about what playbooks are. Manual playbooks, old school playbooks. And the reality is that lots of lawyers either don't know what a playbook is, or they're using the term playbook to mean something else. So there are lots of forms of kind of traditional playbooks. And effectively what they are a guide. They're a negotiation guide. And what happens, particularly in larger in-house legal teams or in law firms or kind of alternative legal services providers that review bulk agreements, what they'll do is they will create a playbook, and they'll ask all their lawyers to abide by that playbook when they're reviewing contracts. And the purpose of that is to ensure consistency during the review, because you don't want one lawyer that's accepting uncapped liability and another that is negotiating and delaying contracts because they only want to accept a 6-month cap. Right? So you want to create a consistent negotiation framework across your organization. And so that's where a playbook comes in. That's all it is. It's a set of rules that tells you how to negotiate a contract, and what your possible issues might be and how you would go about that negotiation. And even if you don't have a documented playbook, the reality is that you already have been using a playbook. So that could be a checklist. That could be the red lines that you always make because that's your style of reviewing a contract. It's potentially a mental model that you rely on. It might not be just, straightforward, clear-cut rules that you have codified in an Excel spreadsheet. But the mental checklist that you maintain is still a playbook, but you probably just haven't made it machine readable yet. This is what a playbook used to look like. We used to build these for a living back when I had the legal ops consultancy. So we used to build these playbooks, and effectively a documented playbook, as I said earlier, sets out your standard positions, your fallbacks, and any canned responses. And a canned response is basically a pre-drafted comment that explains to the other side why you're pushing back on a certain point that they're making. So that might be a term in their template agreement. So if it's a third-party agreement, they might have a term that says, we want auto-renewal, and your company position might be, I do not accept auto-renewal because I only know what I'm buying today and I don't know what budget I'm going to have next year, and so I don't accept auto-renewal. That's a rule. And I've just explained what the contradiction to your preferred position might be and how you would deal with that. And so you would also have a comment that would explain why you're pushing back. Comments are good practice, generally. I think most lawyers will agree. There is nothing more frustrating than a heavily marked up provision in an agreement with no rationale as to why that markup has occurred. It's only courteous to provide a comment, but also it will eliminate negotiation rounds. So if you see a convoluted change or even a simple change, and you're the receiving lawyer, you're looking at the contract with the markup, you're thinking, well, why did you make this change? Explain this to me. And if I have to come back and ask you to explain it to me, then I'm wasting a negotiation cycle, right? So the reason why people codify not just the rules, but also the comments is because A, it's good practice and courteous, and it helps you maintain a better relationship with the other side. But B, it will reduce your negotiation cycle time because it makes you more efficient. And the reason I'm saying this is because one of the main reasons we want to use AI is to make ourselves more efficient. It's to allow ourselves to build better processes. But we still need to remember that we're dealing with human beings. And so certain behaviors are still important, whether or not we're automating the process. I'm just going to pause there to see if there are any questions around anything that I've asked. Dory, if you could just let me know if there's anything you think I should answer straight away, please do.
Sure, Electra, thanks. So one quick question. Does this tool support, sorry, I may butcher this, MENA, Middle East, North Africa laws, as well as bilingual contracts? And then there are also some questions around what everyone is using for building their playbooks outside of an AI tool.
Yeah, so just very happy to answer questions about the tool, but I will be showing the tool a bit later, so I'll go into more detail there, and I'd love to hear more kind of tool-specific questions at that point. Yes, so whether or not it supports laws is a good question. There is no tool that inherently will enable you to ensure that a contract adheres to certain laws in a certain jurisdiction. You might ask the AI to do that, but I wouldn't rely on it. If you have certain jurisdictional requirements or legal obligations that you need to make sure the AI is picking up, then the playbook is the place for you to codify that requirement. So if there's a requirement to give, I don't know, X amount of, or if there's a requirement to pay a supplier within X amount of days, if you're a public organization, I think there's a law that says that you need to do that, then you should codify that as a rule rather than rely on the AI to do a review of the laws within that jurisdiction and make sure that the contract complies. And then what people are using to create these, they're using Excel, they're using Word documents, and I'm going to show you an example shortly of what we're going to use for the purposes of this exercise. So a playbook versus an AI playbook, the main changes or the main differences are that you're taking your rules, the rules that you want to abide by when you're reviewing a contract, and you're turning them into prompts. And I'll talk you through what that means in a second. As I mentioned earlier, the reason this matters and why playbooks are important is because it ensures consistency. It's not just inconsistent. Reviews of contracts don't just happen inconsistently within teams. They happen inconsistently just with one person. I mean, if you're honest with yourself, it might be the case that on a Monday when you're reviewing a contract and you're fresh from the weekend, you're taking a really stringent approach because you have the energy to do that. But then on a Friday, and I'm being flippant here deliberately just to make a point, but on the Friday, you might think, I just want to go home. I'm going to review this contract quickly, and I'm not going to pay as much attention to every single area that might be inconsistent. That is the reality of human behavior. And so there is a level of inconsistency that will occur without a playbook. Introducing one will improve consistency. It's obviously efficient because when you're automating the contract review in a way that makes you feel like it's a reliable process, then that will free up your time to do other stuff that's more strategic, and that will allow you to step back and think about things like what does the business want to do? How can I help take them there? And of course, risk detection. So AI is amazing. And often when I use it to review contracts, I find that sometimes it might detect things in a way that I would not. So this is not just because I've created my playbook, but it's the way that it surfaces it and the way it helps me think. So it gives me, sometimes it helps give structure around how I think. I just mentioned efficiency. This is a test. Someone messaged me, and I asked them because they said that they were using the Law Insider AI tool. And sorry for the shameless plug, but this is just to show you this is a fractional attorney, and they have said, even though we only released this tool on the 24th of May. Yes, 24th of April, sorry. So it's not been out in the wild for so long, but this person is already saving 20 to 30% of time using the AI tool. So the efficiency gains are enormous. This is, if you amplify this, across teams, what does this look like for an organization and their bottom line? So there is an element of efficiency and there is a good kind of cost benefit analysis here. So when you're designing your prompt, it's really important to be very clear about what you want. And I know that this is cliche, garbage in, garbage out, or rubbish in, rubbish out, if you're not from the US. But if you write a vague prompt, you will get a vague result. And if you get a vague result, it might lead to you not trusting the tool and its capabilities. Whereas in fact, that's probably not fair. A lot of the output relies on how you have prompted the tool. Whereas if you have a sharp prompt, one that's to the point and that follows a certain structure, which I'm going to share with you in a minute, you get very sharp insight. You do get what you want out of the tool. So a good prompt is clear, it's structured, it's informed, and it's repeatable, right? So if you're trying to review all your NDAs based on certain types of rules, you want to make sure that those types of rules would apply across all your NDAs that you're reviewing. So where do you begin? So the first step is to document your preferred positions. And there are a few ways for you to do that. I'm going to share a different screen now, but basically, sorry, I'm going to go back to this. So basically, this might be your NDA playbook, right? This might be in your head. This might be on a Word document. You might have a much more elaborate version of this, but ultimately, there are 10 rules, for example, that you might want all your NDAs to abide by. The first is that your term is 1 to 2 years. You want litigation instead of arbitration, etc. When you're a human being, you can look at these and go, right, I'm going to review a contract against this checklist, and anything that's non-compliant, I'm just going to pick up and redline. So that's quite a laborious process from a time perspective, but you can make judgments in your head around how you want to apply these. But when you're applying these rules with AI, you need to be more structured than this. And the good thing about that is that you're front-loading the effort. So effectively, you are taking the time to think about how you're going to express these top-line rules in prompt version so that you can scale what you do. So you're not relying on a human being to check this checklist every single time, make a judgment based on the wording in the agreement, and then make a change based on how they're feeling that day, a previous template that may or may not have been good. So the exercise of creating a playbook is something that's going to allow you to repeat this manual process that you are now doing with your brain. So this is an example of a document that you might create. And I have put the rules here in the first column. So I'm just showing you this to give you some familiarity. And I'm going to go back to the slides in a second, because here what I'm doing is I'm going to use a framework. And this framework will allow you to elaborate on this top level rule and turn it into something that can become an AI prompt. So the second step is to translate your preferred positions into prompts. And you need to start with your review logic. So if the term is longer or shorter than 2 years, then change to 2 years. Because even that is a step further than term equals 1 to 2 years. And another one might be, if governing law is not England and Wales, then change to that. So we've come up with an acronym to help you structure your prompts, and the acronym is ICA. So if you take your top level prompt and try and break it down with the ICA framework, which stands for Identify, Check, and Act, you will almost always come up with an AI-ready prompt. What does that look like? So the first thing is you need to ask the tool to identify the rule or the provision. So the way you would start your prompt is by telling the AI what they're looking for, what it's looking for. So you want to tell the AI what it's looking for. For example, this applies to the choice of law of the agreement. That's a very simple beginning. The next is you want to check if it meets your criteria. Ensure that the governing law is California. And then you tell it what to do. Redline the clause to specify California. So if you pull all of this together, you will create a prompt that is effectively AI ready and that will allow the tool to review a contract and do what you want it to do. Now, I just want to caveat that because often you may need to iterate, particularly with more complex prompts. You want to create this, but you also want to test it. And I'll show you in a minute how we're going to do that. But this is a really good framework for you to start taking something that's as simple as this, a top level rule, and turning it into something that is ready for AI. Now, I just want to elaborate slightly on ACT because ACT will vary more than identify and check. ACT could be, I want you to redline the agreement. So sometimes, most times, you just want the tool to tell you what to do to rectify anything that it's found that doesn't comply with your rule. But in some instances, and when I've worked with larger clients or larger organizations rather that want to just flag stuff, they don't necessarily want to redline everything. They just want to have a quick kind of risk check on an agreement. You might just ask it to suggest things. So with the Law Insider word add-in, there is a different terminology. So redline, when you're asking the tool to redline, it will always suggest a redline for you. It will suggest alternative language that if you apply it, will turn a clause in the agreement compliant with your rule. Whereas suggest, think of it as a red flag. I'm asking the tool to just tell me if something's in there so that I can then assess whether or not to redline. And then you might say revise or insert. So if the data security clause is missing, insert it. So it's just different ways of asking the tool to do a certain action, take a certain action. And this is what it would look like. So if, for example, you were to break down the term equals 2 years high-level rule into a prompt, identify is this applies to the term of the agreement, check is ensure the term is between 1 and 2 years, and act is if term exceeds or is less than 2 years, redline to 2 years, and if the term is missing, flag and insert standard clause for a 2-year term. And as you'll see, you will take this and you put it into a paragraph, and that's your prompt. And I'll show you how to do this in our tool in a second. Okay, so let's go there. Before I do that, do we have any questions, Dory?
There are a few here. So just for everyone, yes, the recording will absolutely be shared and the slides. So one question, can this tool identify FAR or FAR and DFARS, DFARS clauses? And can we set up these rules based on what the clause is and redline clauses? So I think it's really about, Electra, getting back to the prompt building here, and that while we don't necessarily support any specific jurisdiction or rule set, once those are programmed in as a prompt, you will be able to have those.
Correct. So anything that you want to program into the AI, you can do that. And as I said, the better your prompt, the better the output. So yes. Sorry, Andrew, is this better? I've just seen your comment come through saying that you can't see very well. Can you see now? Oh God, that's even worse. Okay, that's, I think, as far as I can go. But here, this is the AI tool. Okay, so the way that our AI tool works is that it is a native to Word. So if you're looking at a Word document, you just open your Word document and you go to, if you haven't installed the Word add-in yet, you're free to do it now or later. But basically, you would open any Word document, you go to your add-ins here, you click on that and you type Law Insider in the search bar. This icon will come up and you can install it within seconds. And then once you've done that, it will appear here on your home ribbon, which you will click. And as soon as you click it, this bar here on the side, this pane here on the side will appear. And this is your AI contract review tool. For the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to focus on building playbooks, right? I'm not going to do I'm not going to show you the whole tool. I'm just going to show you the playbook building element because I want to apply what I've just showed you in practice. But if you did want to see a full demo, please contact me after this and we'll arrange one. So if you go to the home screen here, you'll see that there's this document review area. There's review with AI, review with playbook, or manage playbooks. Okay, one hack to create your playbook might be, just as a starter, might be to get an NDA that you're happy with and ask the tool to review with AI. And if you do that, then you will get a playbook that's created on the fly based on kind of best practice from an AI perspective. So that will create a first version of a playbook for you that you can start to tweak. I'm going to show this to you in a separate session, so I'm not going to focus on this today, but this is just something for you to be mindful of, that if you didn't have a playbook and you wanted to review an agreement, you can use AI to do it. It won't be as pointed as you'd like it to be because you didn't create those rules, but it will give you a general overview of what the AI thinks is fair or not fair within the agreement. And then you can use that playbook that gets created with the AI to start building your own playbook. The next is to review with an existing playbook. So I'm just going to quickly show what this looks like. So basically, we have some pre-created playbooks here that are baked into the tool. So anyone who has a Law Insider account will have access to this. So one NDA, one DPA, one SAS, vendor agreement, MSA, EULA, general commercial terms, MSA, and buy-side contractor agreements are there. But of course, if you choose these, at the moment, you can't change many of them, but soon we're bringing in a feature where you can just build on these. So you'll be able to duplicate our existing playbooks and start building on them or tweaking certain rules so they align with your preferences more. But today, what I want to show you is how to go ahead and build your own playbook from scratch. So if you go into Manage Playbooks, you go into New Playbook, and I'm going to call this my NDA playbook. The agreement type is an NDA, so I just type that in there, and then I save my playbook. And then I just go in and add a new review rule. So I'm already prepared for this. So I have a document here, which is what I want to just quickly take you through. And this is what I think should be the first step that you take, is to take, as I mentioned earlier, is to take your rules, your top level rules, and turn them into prompts by using the ICA framework, and then taking these prompts and copying them over into the tool, which will then create the rule for you. So here, I'm just going to go ahead and copy this over here. So this is the term. And I've said this applies to the term or duration of the agreement. I'm not sure about that, so I'm just going to say that. Ensure the term is no longer than 2 years. Redline to limit the term to 1 or 2 years, or insert a standard term clause if it's missing. And what we've also done here is we've just provided you with some guidance around how to go ahead and create your prompts in case you don't have access to the webinar notes. And then here you would tell the tool what the response type should be. So should it be a red line or should it be a suggestion? If it's a suggestion, it will simply flag when something in the agreement is not compliant with this rule. If it's a red line, it will also go further than that and suggest wording, alternative wording that you click onto, and then the change takes effect in the agreement. And I'll show you how that works in a second. One thing that I absolutely love about this tool is this feature here, which is that you can enable comments. And here you would basically add the type of comment, this is not going to happen. This is not always going to be a word for word, right? So whatever you put in here is an AI instruction effectively. And you will tell the tool what comment you would like to annotate when a change is made. So what I've done here, and we're going to share this document with you after this webinar, by the way. So what I've done here is I've explained my rationale for the change that I'm going to make. So I'm saying this confidentiality term places an unrealistic burden on each party. This is assuming that it's longer than 2 years, because 2 years is pretty standard. Instead, we propose a revised term we believe to be sufficient to protect each party's interests. And just this NDA is only intended to cover preliminary discussions. So I'm going to add that here, and I'm going to create my rule. So the work is here. This is where the work happens, right? This bit is pretty easy. I'm going to add a few more rules just to show you what this looks like. So my next rule is that I prefer litigation instead of arbitration. I think that's good for an NDA. So as I've said here, this applies to the dispute resolution clause. Ensure the clause provides for litigation, not arbitration, and redline to replace or insert a litigation clause if it's not there. And here I've said that my rationale for that is that NDAs are typically enforced through litigation, not arbitration, because arbitration is uncommon and may limit enforceability in urgent breach scenarios. So I'm creating a rule here. And let me do another one just to show you how it works. Okay, enable comments. This is always a contentious one when you're working with counterparties from different jurisdictions. So I'm going to create this rule. Okay, and now I'm going to save and run this. So what the AI is doing now is it's taking my rules and it's reviewing this agreement to tell me whether the whether the rules that I've just created are complied with or not. So here it's telling me that the term here is perpetual, which exceeds 2 years, of course. And what it's also doing is it's proposing language that will turn the language here into different language that complies with my rule. So if I click apply, that just happens. I love that bit. And there's also a comment here. Adam Hilda's my husband because I'm using his account today. So this confidentiality term places an unrealistic burden on each party. Instead, we propose a revised term we believe to be sufficient to protect each party's interest. So it's basically taken my comment and copied it word for word. So when the counterparty receives this agreement with the track changes, they'll know why I've made the change. So if we go to the next one, again, it's when you click on it, it points you to the relevant part of the agreement so that you can also check whether the AI's got it right. And it says that it's telling us that this is arbitration instead of litigation. I want to see the whole change that it's proposing. I like it. I also want to remember what I'd asked it to do. So I can click on details and it will give me the full view. So if you created this playbook last month, or if someone in your team, because there is a team capability with this tool where someone can create a playbook and then that same playbook is shared across the team for that consistency, and you want to understand what the instruction was and why it's there, then you can open this up and take a closer look. And then again, you can just hit apply and it will make the changes. Yeah, it's pretty magical because I know that even if you're an experienced lawyer, these things still take time. So free drafting or looking at other agreements to see what you wrote last time, it just all takes time. And then you just apply that there.
Electra, I'm just going to pop in here for a second. If you have a section, say it's a large indemnification paragraph that needs edits to multiple items, do you think you're better off breaking the playbook into smaller rules or having it make edits to the paragraph as a whole?
That's a really good question. So I would probably recommend, because you don't know whether an agreement is going to have all of the indemnity points in one paragraph. It could be, maybe this is a bad example, but it could be that it's across various terms in the agreement. So I would probably suggest that you break it up. But again, some of this is trial and error. So you might not like the way that something's being flagged, and so you might iterate on your prompt to allow it to do better, basically. So I would try it. I think that for certain provisions, breaking it up more makes sense, but for things like term or simpler terms, you might be best off just doing it in one.
Great. And then one other question that came up when you were going from the playbook document into the review here. Are we able to, I know this is something that is on the roadmap if it's not completed yet, but the ability to import this data that you've got in this document to create a playbook, is that available today or is that coming?
This is not available today, but it is coming. It is coming. What you could do, though, is use the AI review functionality to review an agreement, and that will pull up your rules. So let me just show you what that looks like. So here, what you could do when you're hitting AI review, and I know I said I wouldn't show this, but I want now, this is suitable. So if you say disclosure, you say what you are, if it's a unilateral NDA, that makes sense, but otherwise, no. And then you might have a specific concern, which is non-solicitation, no non-solicitation clauses. You can do a list of stuff here as well, and then you can start your review. And what happens here is that the AI, this takes a moment, but the AI will start to pull together a playbook, which will be based on general best practice, and it will review your agreement against rules that it thinks are reasonable. Have we got any other questions while this does its magic?
Oh, we have a lot of questions. So for anyone who doesn't get your question answered, I'm going to apologize in advance and we will absolutely follow up afterwards. There are a lot of wonderful questions that are coming in. I mean, the volume here is just amazing and so great to see. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so this is what the AI review tool has done. So this is not us creating prompts. This, as I said, it's AI generated. So it's telling us that I should have probably done this on a clean document, but it tells you obligations never expire, which is too broad. It tells you that the definition of confidential information is overly restrictive. You might disagree. And if you do, you just ignore it. Exclusions from confidentiality, there are none. And so it's providing language that will allow you to kind of introduce into the agreement. I know that that's not the right place for it, but you just click that and then it inserts it where you've positioned your cursor. So after this is all done, this becomes an AI-generated review playbook that you can then start to use. So you can save it and run it, and then you can also tweak it. So if you click into each rule, like purpose limitation is a rule that the AI thought was a good rule, you can just tweak this to align it with your preferences. And now that you know how to prompt it, maybe this is a good first kind of pass for you to take a playbook that's been created with AI and just tweak it to suit your risk appetite. Okay, I'm going to hop back to this, and then I want to leave plenty of time for all these amazing questions that I'm seeing come through. Okay, tips for evolving your playbook. A playbook is not a static document. You need to continue to evolve it. So track what works and where AI stumbles. Adjust your prompts to handle edge cases. If you're using your own templates and you're constantly getting pushback, just make sure that you're also tweaking the language in your templates and involve your team as well. So improvements to playbooks are always best when they're coming from different people, because different people handle different things, and they may have insights that you don't. And you can start building your own playbook today. There's a link here. We'll also send a follow-up email after this with the recording and this link so that you can go and check it out. Otherwise, this is the URL for you. And just before I go into any specific questions here, I just want to answer some of the frequently asked questions that we get. Do you train your AI models on our data? The answer to that is no. This is not something that we're not relying on your data to train our models. Our models rely on large language models, and we are further prompting those models to do what we need them to do. So we do not train our AI models based on your data, nor do we store your data. So that's not how it works, because you open your document in Word, and so it all remains locally. And there is also a security page that you can go and look at, which we'll share after this. We are SOC 2 and GDPR compliant. Our sister company, SimpleDocs, which has created the infrastructure for this tool, works with large enterprise organizations. And so they have to comply with all these regulatory requirements. So yes, we are absolutely SOC 2 and GDPR compliant. Is this affordable for individual lawyers and teams? We are definitely the most affordable tool out there. The cost of this tool starts at $29 per month with no tie-in for an individual solo player. And then if you want team access, which means a capability to share your playbooks, central billing, and other benefits like that apply across your team, then that starts at $59 a month. It's very easy to implement because there is no adoption curve, really. You just open a Word document as you would anyway, and then it appears on the right-hand side. I've always had a gripe with legal tech and how hard it's been to implement, because lawyers are expecting people to work in different environments, and it's hard for them to do that. But this is native, and it kind of works where you do. And this is a deliberate design, because we know that lawyers and Word work closely together. And can it handle multiple languages and jurisdictions? Yes, it handles any language, and it can work in any jurisdiction. Now, as I said earlier, I wouldn't rely on the tool to tell you whether a contract is fully compliant with the laws of Cyprus, but ultimately, if you have specific jurisdictional requirements, you can add those into your playbook. Okay, now I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to go to Q&A.
Yeah, one question that did come up, Electra, and I think this is jurisdiction specific, but is it necessary to advise another party that AI has been used throughout negotiations?
Well, that's deep. Yes, I mean, I think that will become expected as we progress. But yes, you may want to let the other party know that you've used AI to review the agreement. But also, if you are using AI to augment the way that you work rather than completely replace it, then of course there'll be human oversight. So that's something that you might want to tell the other side as well, just to give them reassurance. And just also remember just the relationship aspect of this. The other side may not necessarily want to feel like you didn't review any part of their agreement or didn't engage with the agreement at all. So I would say, you know, what level of involvement you had. Yeah, okay. Andrew, is the $60 a month on top of my normal Law Insider subscription? No. If you have a Law Insider subscription, you will have access to these tools. My organization does not allow downloading add-ins until very thorough IT review. Is there a possibility of Law Insider lead demos or available webinars as a first due diligence? Please contact us, Lawley. We will arrange a demo for you, and we'll also share some resources that we have that will hopefully give reassurance to your IT about the infrastructure of our tool. How would you use the playbook outside of Law Insider with ChatGPT or Gemini? Would you just upload the Word doc? Justin, I wouldn't upload my document into ChatGPT or Gemini because I'm scared for the security element of it, and they're not designed for this. But theoretically speaking, you could put something into ChatGPT or Gemini and give it a set of rules and ask the AI to review against those rules. You probably won't get the most robust output because their system prompts aren't kind of, we have system prompts that tell the tool to behave as a legal support assistant. So we've done a lot of work around how the output will appear. Will this tool be available for other platforms such as Google Docs? At this point in time, I can't guarantee that, but we are looking at how else we're going to expand this into other working environments.
Sorry about that. I did say previously in the chat
Oh,
that it would be available for Google Docs because I thought that that was where we still were. So apologies to anybody who
sorry.
I did say that to, just to clarify there. Not currently on the roadmap, but we do have our web-based tools as well.
Yes, we do indeed. So we're going to show the web-based tools soon. And so you'll be able to see how you can use your Google Docs when it comes to that. What functionality difference is there between Pro and Premium subscriptions, and how many team members can use Pro at the same time without paying extra? So each team member pays $59. It's a very simple commercial model. We want to keep it simple. And that's also important because the price point and the simplicity of the commercial model aligns with our ethos, which is to democratize these AI tools. Because, if you look at other AI tools, they start at $200 up to $500 per license. So it's almost, they're just not approachable. They're not accessible for smaller teams or for solo lawyers or freelancers. And so you can have as many team members as you like using it for $59 per team member. The functionality difference is at this point in time the same. So the only thing is that with Teams, you have access to central billing and you can also share your playbook. So one person creates it once and then everyone can share it. You state that you're GDPR compliant. However, the privacy notice do not guarantee this nor the location of the data. Please review the privacy policy again. And let me know what the issues are, because I reviewed that really recently, and I do believe that this privacy notice complies with Article 13 of the GDPR. So please let me know where you think the gaps are and we'll fix them. How many languages? All of them. I haven't counted all the languages, but I know that any language that we've tried it in, including Greek, I saw a question earlier, works. Can I upload the Swiss law and regulation to my app and use it for all my playbooks? I mean, Christian, I don't know exactly what you mean by that, but if you were to kind of download the whole of the Swiss law, I think that might be overwhelming for the tool. So you would probably need to pinpoint the areas that you want the tool to pick up within the contracts that you're reviewing, where a specific law or regulation would apply. So this doesn't kind of become a super brain for all the laws and regulations in a specific jurisdiction. It's still up to you to look at the terms that you want the playbook to pick up and make sure that if there are any regulatory restrictions, that those are baked into the rule that you're creating or the prompt that you're creating. Cool. That was I was just in Q&A there, but I'm just about to pop into
in the chat. Yeah,
yeah.
there are absolutely a lot of questions here. I'm hopefully doing my best. Let me know if I've missed a specific question here. I know.
Yeah. There is no relation between Law Insider and Spellbook. I do appreciate that we offer very similar tools. Spellbook's great. Ezat is saying that he's already subscribed to Law Insider but is unable to find the review feature to apply our playbook. Ezat, if anyone's having any issues like that, please contact us after this and I'll walk you through it, or we'll make sure that there's we can invite you to the next demo. So we host 2 demos a week, which you're very welcome to sign up to if you want to see the full range of this tool. Dory will share information about those after this webinar. And basically you can sign up to those at a time that suits so that you can see the full tool in action. The large language model that we rely on at the moment is OpenAI. Okay. I think we've probably answered quite a few questions. Okay, Michael, I like that data stays at our computer instead of being stored at Law Insider, but does that still enable the AI to learn what language I like over time? How do those two things both be true? So, Michael, it doesn't learn at the moment. And we are debating this internally to see whether that's something that we should be doing. At this point in time, we're not learning. So we're not like a ChatGPT at this stage. Where slowly it starts to sound like Q, even maybe not lately with its latest release, but it's starting to sound like Q and it understands what you like and stuff like that. So at this point in time, there is no kind of intuitive learning of your preferences. However, we will see what feedback we get and whether people are interested in that, and then we may release the option for you to do that. And so the only thing we're learning from or taking or being informed by, rather, when we're performing a review, is the playbook that you create and the rules that you put in there. Can prompts reference external documents like source of law, or does the content of the prompt need to include the text of the law if being included in the playbook language? I think I've answered a variation of this, but yes, you would need to include the text of the law if you want the playbook to pick it up. Okay, how does Law Insider compare in terms of tools and playbook guidance with other models like Harvey or GCAI? I'm not fully familiar with GCAI. I think Harvey is a much larger tool than Law Insider. It's got a much broader use case. It works very much with law firms and larger enterprise in-house teams. I don't know whether they have this exact word add-in. I've got a feeling that maybe they're at the very early stages of developing it, but we're not a Harvey, and I don't know what GCAI is, so I can't answer. Yeah, I'm just gonna hop back to the Q&A to see if there's any.
Yeah, quick. So one of the questions was, do we integrate with any CLMs? So for example, link squares. And I'm gonna, yeah, go ahead.
I don't believe we do at the moment, but I think this is something that is being discussed because I understand that there is a need for that. What you could do if you're not fully married to link squares, which I know is a great tool, you could look at Simple Docs. So Simple Docs is a very lightweight, kind of agile CLM that has been developed by Simple Docs, our sister company, and there is all the functionality of a CLM, but this word add-in fully integrates with it natively. What's the difference between standard and custom playbooks on your pricing page? Okay, so standard playbooks are playbooks that are baked into the tool from the outset. So you will be able to get access to these kind of standard playbooks that we've built, and then custom playbooks that you would build yourself. Dory, is that on the current pricing page on the website, that differentiation?
I will have to double check.
Okay,
I believe it is.
We'll double check, Jeff, and I'll come back to you on that and what it means from a pricing aspect. Andrew says, when we run the playbook and ask for a red line, can it insert our preferred language instead of AI-generated language? And if so, where do we store our preferred language? So you would store your preferred language in the prompt. So you would say this, and you'd put it in quotation marks. The reason I don't do that, Andrew, and I did start doing that, but the reason I don't do that is because sometimes my preferred language doesn't align with other terminology in the agreement. So if my preferred language includes a defined term, for example, or a term that's not defined but is defined in the agreement that I'm reviewing, so assuming it's a third-party agreement, then there might be a clash there, which is fine if you're happy to kind of go and check it, but that's why I leave it to the AI. But you will have a play with it and see whether you like that approach or not. So yeah, hope that answers your question. Can we compare documents in this tool? You can compare documents in this tool. This is a new feature that we released, I think, last week. So what you could do is you could upload a document. Say you're reviewing a DPA, a data processing addendum, that is an attachment to an MSA, but you've got the two separately. You can upload the MSA and say to the tool, please check whether this DPA has any conflicts with the MSA that I've just uploaded. So it's an incredible functionality. So Kanya, please join our demo if you can this week, so that I can show you that in more detail. Yes, Jeff, you can have red lines in your preferred language. Would I need another license if I share the contract with multiple internal stakeholders during the review process? If you're sharing, okay, Raja, I'm not sure I fully understand what that means. But if you wanted to share the contract with multiple internal stakeholders like finance in Word, then you would just do that as you do normally. But if you're asking people to go through the playbook and select whether they'd like to accept the proposed change or not, then they would need a license as well. So if they want to play in the tool, then you would need a license. But if you just want to share the document, just because you've got the Word add-in, that doesn't stop you from being able to share the Word document as you do. Sorry, I've just said that I've answered something. Is this tool trained on the Law Insider collection of agreements? Is there a way to use it to review contracts with respect to specific industries? This is an awesome question, Scott. So the tool has access to the Law Insider database. Again, please join our demo so I can show you that. And basically, we have something that's called a Law Insider index that will tell you whether a specific agreement or a specific clause is similar to the body of contracts and clauses that we host on Law Insider. So this is a unique feature that only Law Insider is basically able to offer, because we have been collating contracts and clauses for 10 years now. So we have this incredible insight, and we're going to be surfacing it. I don't think that that's live right now, but it will be over the next couple of weeks. So please do join. If you're on the newsletter, then you'll get a notification when that's launched. And we'll invite you to our demo so that you can take a look. Okay, I think we've only got a couple of minutes left, so I'm just going to answer some last questions. So the documents to be uploaded in Law Insider can be in docx or PDF to compare. Yes, you can upload your documents in those formats and it will be able to compare. What we can't do, though, is turn a PDF into a Word. So that we can't do that at this point. We are working on it. Cool. I'm going to stop it there, give everyone a minute back. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you so much for all these questions. It's so great to see such an engaged audience. If there's anything that I didn't answer that you want answers to, please do follow up with me after this webinar. We're going to be hosting more of these. We're going to be hosting in-depth training videos on other features of the tool as well, but also that are just for general understanding of AI. And it's going to be such a huge transformative force over the next few years for our profession. So thank you very much, and take care. See you soon.